Rack focus. Hey everybody, Johnny O from the Plot Hole, and it's time for Unpopular Opinions episode 21. Let's get right into it. Yay! Unpopular opinion number 1. Most retail employees are wrong, but not in the way that you think. The idea that the customer is always right has to be the single most devastating paradigm shift in all of retail history. Since when did the guy with the least amount of knowledge of best practices get to decide what best practices should be? Just because he wants something doesn't mean he should get it. Furthermore, the reason retail employees are wrong is because they often give in to the petulant, child-esque temper tantrums that grown adults generally partake in order to get an extra 10% off of some silly doodad they didn't need in the first place. Giving in to these childish behaviors is not good customer service. Quite the opposite, no matter what the survey says. Think about it. Giving in to people who act like Trump on election day reinforces the idea that if you act like a petulant child and throw that temper tantrum, that they're going to get what he or she wants. It also tells people who may have misread an advert or just plain missed out on a sale that they don't matter. We are punishing good behavior and rewarding bad behavior. The notion that the customer is always right needs to find its way into the trash bin. Unpopular opinion number 2. The argument that Daniel LARRUSO was the real bully in The Karate Kid is absurd at best. Look, I'm not saying Daniel is an angel, but to assert that he's the one who bullied Johnny and the Cobra Kai gang is just plain wrong. Everyone wants to assert that just because Daniel intervened during Johnny and Allie's argument, that suddenly makes Daniel the aggressor. These people tend to forget that Johnny was already being overly aggressive with Allie, going so far as to taking a radio and breaking it. LARRUSO stepped in order to de-escalate a potentially volatile situation between the girl who he fancied and someone who was on the verge of abusing his love interest. And before you dismiss that last statement of fact, keep in mind that Allie stated very plainly and with most confidence that she didn't want to speak with Johnny. Johnny had to be heard. Do we accept that behavior from people? No. Last I checked, no meant no. After a failed attempt at mild diplomacy, Daniel found himself on the receiving end of a very violent shove to the ground. Yes, Daniel retaliated with a sucker punch to Johnny. Not the best idea, as he quickly found out. However, that doesn't make Daniel the bully. Fast forward to the soccer pitch, we see Johnny and the Cobra Kai gang plotting against LARRUSO. Yes, Daniel took an aggressive takedown as a cheap shot. However, seeing as how he had been the recipient of many incidences of bullying and violence by the Cobra Kai gang, I can understand why he would think that was intentional. Yes, Daniel further provoked Johnny with a silly water hose stunt at Halloween. But did a wet set of PJs warrant a 4-on-1 beatdown? The fact that it was a 4-on-1 attack further proves that the power dynamic fell at the feet of Johnny Lawrence in the Cobra Kai dojo. Even more evidence presents itself with the Cobra Kai TV show. Johnny Lawrence is shown to be kind of a dick with people he doesn't like. Using racial slurs and calling them, well, kittens. I know that Cobra Kai has done loads to provide context and many layers to a previously one-dimensional character, and I freely admit that Johnny wasn't the real villain of the film. That title lies solely at the feet of John Kreese. However, that doesn't make Daniel the bully. Look, I get it. It's fun to look at potential alternatives to our stories. That doesn't make those alternatives correct. Unpopular opinion number 3. Thin crust pizza is the best pizza, hands down. No offense to other pizza. Deep dish is pizza inside out. Delicious, mind you, but can we really do anything with that outside of the dinner table? Stuffed crust pizza is constipation pizza. If you eat that, you better have a healthy serving of greens or a salad, or your guts aren't going to be nice to you come nighttime. Hand-tossed is all right when done with care and expertise. However, hand-tossed pizza still leaves a little bit too much bread in the bread to toppings ratio that any good pizza should have. Don't get me started on thick crust. That's just a baguette with cheese. The damn sauce is absorbed into that dry loaf where the pizza should be. Thin crust pizza, on the other hand, allows you to get that perfect blend between sauce, toppings, cheese, and crust for an even distribution of flavor. Not to mention that thin crust pizza takes the least amount of time to cook, making it more efficient and effective at what it's meant to do and feed people quickly. This is in no way an attack on your favorite crust. I mean, obviously I like all crusts of pizza, maybe a little too much, but for me, thin crust is where it's at. Finally, I think I'll save some of the heavier topics for a future episode. So let's go back to Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. Or, more to the point, let's go to the former YouTube, now Netflix show, Cobra Kai. And before we continue, spoiler alert for all of you spoiler-sensitive people out there. I'm about to get into some mild details of the show, so if you haven't seen it yet, feel free to put me on mute until I give you a thumbs up. Like many, I was curious when I found out that YouTube was producing a spin-off of the Karate Kid series. When they said this was going to focus on the Johnny Lawrence side of the story, that piqued my interests. Then the announcement came that William Zabka and Ralph Macchio were going to reprise their roles, and that was enough for me. Of course I was going to tune in. Little did I know that the nostalgia strings are going to be yanked every step of the way. Not that I mind callbacks to the source material, but this was gratuitous. Yes, the majority of people who wanted to watch this were already privy to the backstory of the franchise. You don't have to remind us every other minute. And for the rest of those who didn't grow up crane-kicking their siblings, they had their parents to go to. Google at the very least. Yes, putting in some context and callbacks every now and again is perfectly fine and helps advance the story. But when every episode seems like a nostalgic cash grab, the callbacks lose their integrity. Furthermore, I enjoy the show greatly, but the level of suspension of disbelief required to be able to digest the plot points dwarfs the amount of dishonesty needed to believe that the earth is flat. Season 1 was fine, nothing was too far-fetched, and the story was very believable. However, with the culmination of the second season high school brawl, I had to get eye-roll insurance. The amount of horse boo force-fed to the audience was too much to take. Could there have been a fight? Sure. But a 30-plus person brawl where everyone seems to have Bruce Lee talents at a high school? I mean, give me a break. And then with the season 3 shenanigans, all those kids would be in prison. The amount of felony breaking and entering, assault and battery, grand theft, etc. that these characters get away with is beyond any reasonable level of suspension of disbelief that anybody should be forced to use while watching a show of this nature. Cobra Kai would have been shut down by the authorities. Every single one of the students involved in the season 2 brawl would have been expelled. The second these people started breaking into houses, stealing medals of honor, we would have seen arrests. If the LaRussos allowed this type of abuse to their child, you think that Child Protective Services wouldn't have removed those children? And don't give me that they tried but Kreese got to the authorities first crap. You mean to tell me that someone with a history of assault on children would be able to easily sway the police officers against the LaRussos? Give me a break. Alright, I'm going too negative here. I do enjoy the show, and the decision to bring Kumiko and Chosen back is probably one of, if not the best decisions of season 3. Allie too, she's still stunning. I just wish they dialed down the nonsense and bring it back a little bit more into reality. And that's Unpopular Opinions episode 21. First of 2021. See what I did there? What do you think of today's opinions? Leave me a comment down below with your unpopular opinion. I really do enjoy reading them. If you enjoyed today's show and you wish to support the channel, you can do so at www.patreon.com/theplothole1. That's the number 1, not the Oneaters. 3 more patrons, and that joke goes away. If you find yourself wanting to support the show, but you can't do so monetarily, absolutely, of course, I understand. Times being what they are, I get it. A simple like, share, and subscribe greatly helps get my channel out there. Helps the algorithm. It's a fun thing that happens. Bunch of robots do these things with the numbers and the things, and you do your thing, and all of a sudden the robots say, hey, maybe we should do the thing with that guy. Anyway, I'm Johnny O from The Plot Hole, and don't forget, keep your opinions unpopular, baby.